Hey everybody, so every once in a while something arrives at my home from a book publisher that is just so different, so fun, so exciting that I cannot wait to tell you about it. And sometimes I have to make a whole video just about it to make sure it's on your radar. And that's what we're here to do today, to talk about the New Directions Storybook series that's coming out this month that I'm 100% sure you're going to find fantastic. I cannot wait to tell you all about it. Let's get started. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing today? As always, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe, and of course I hope you're reading an amazing book or two or three or four. It is a warm day here in Northern California, but that's fine because I have been reading all morning, watching some stuff, and it has been a great morning and a great way to start my weekend. But today I'm here to tell you about the New Direction Storybook series. Now, some of you may say, wait a minute, did this video already post? Are you back, Russell? Doing it again? You know what? Sometimes I did post this video last night, and sometimes we make mistakes. And thank you to those who pointed out the error I made in that video. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let it stand. I want to make sure that I'm absolutely correct when talking about this series. So I'm back doing this video again to make sure this New Direction Storybook series winds up on your TBR. So get out that pen, get out that paper, get out that Goodreads, however you keep track of your TBR. If you are so able, order this collection from a local independent bookstore. You know they would appreciate it, and you know New Directions would as well. Or if you're a library user, these may not be books that they just order right away. So go ahead, ask them to order them so you can read them when they come in. So I had read a review of a new Helen DeWitt book of The Last Samurai fame in Publishers Weekly, and I had reached out to the publisher and asked them whether or not I could get a copy to talk about on my channel. And they were so kind, they offered to send me their entire storybook series. And I was like, oh, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like or what that means, but thank you so very much. And I am so happy they did. So New Directions is publishing 6, they're almost like mini short story collections, but they're going to be formatted in that storybook fashion of when we were little. You know those books we used to read with the gold binding on the edge, and we would read them with our moms or our dads or whoever was bringing us up, or we read them to our nieces, our nephews, our children, our fur babies, whoever you read books to. And the nostalgia just sort of hit me, and it was so exciting. And it's a list of amazing authors. So I cannot wait to tell you about them. But I do want to start by saying they sent me this amazing set of postcards for all the books as well. And they're so beautiful. I just love it so much. I will never send one because I'm going to try to turn it into artwork to put up in my library. But I think they're so lovely. So the books I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to do them in order, alphabetical order by the author's last name. And 5 of the 6 are translated literature, so I think that's super exciting, and they are absolutely adorable. So let me show you the first one, and you can see how cute they are. So that's The Famous Magician by Cesar Aira, translated from the Spanish by Chris Andrews. And this is the story of I believe he's an unnamed writer who is suffering from writer's block, walking through an old book market in Buenos Aires. And it's Sunday, and he's walking through, and he's trying really hard to figure out a way to be inspired out of his writer's block when he runs into this man who has a reputation. Now, I love the wording on the back. It says he's an insufferable bore, B-O-O-R, and he has a reputation. But he also is thought to possibly be a master magician. And this man offers our narrator sort of a choice. I will give you absolute power if you never read another book again. And he starts to think, is this man really a magician? Is this publisher a magician? Why? He starts to really contemplate this idea and whether or not this is something that could actually happen. And that is at the heart of The Famous Magician by Cesar Aira, again, translated from the Spanish by Chris Andrews. So the next author was one that I actually hadn't heard of before I started to read about this book and read about this collection. And this is Early Light by Osamu Dazai, Dazai, translated from the Japanese by Donald Keene and Ralph McCarthy. I will say that this is sort of a sad story, is that he passed away. He was found on his 39th birthday. His body was found in a river, or a reservoir, I believe. And so he did not live very long, but his work really has stood the test of time. So this is a collection of, I believe, 3 different tales. And I'm just going to tell you about the first and the last one. So the first one is the story of a man. I love the description, is that he's a drinker. He's a drinker and a family man. And the interesting conundrum, not conundrum, interesting parallel there. But it's about at the end of World War II in Tokyo, his family has been displaced from their home due to firebombs, and they are roaming around, and they are still trying to escape what is going on in Tokyo. And there's something about the word they use. They call it the misadventures of this man and his family. So I'm very interested to see what they do with that. The last story is about a woman whose husband is also a drinker, a drunkard, who decides she's had enough, and she's going to change that, change her life, and she's going to become she's going to transform herself into a strong woman who can't be defeated by anything. There's a fantastic quote that I cannot get out of my head on the back of this one. It says, "There's nothing wrong with being a monster, is there? As long as we can stay alive." So that's Early Light by Osamu Dazai, translated from the Japanese by Donald Keene and Ralph McCarthy. Okay. The next book is the only one that's not translated, and the one that inspired me to ask, and that is The English Understand Wool by Helen DeWitt. And this is the story of a 17-year-old girl. So she's raised by a French mother and an English father, and it talks about how she's been raised in this world where she will not accept anything that's in bad taste. And it gives you sort of a list of ideas of what they consider bad taste. One should not ask servants to wait on one during Ramadan. They must be paid leave while one spends the holy month abroad. One must play the piano if staying at Claridge's. One must regrettably install a clavinova in the suite so that the necessary hours of practice will not be inflicted on fellow guests. So, all this idea of doing things in bad taste. And she is traveling for Ramadan, and she's in New York City, and all of her ideas of bad taste are challenged by the sharks of New York. I think it sounds really interesting. I'm fascinated about this idea of just like that being who you are at your center, this idea of not doing anything in bad taste. It just sounds really fascinating. Got a star review. So that's The English Understand Wool by Helen DeWitt. I thought that was very interesting. The next one is the longest of the books. It's almost practically, it's like a novella. I think it's like 90 something pages long. And that is Spadework for a Palace by Laszlo Krasznahorkai. And my Hungarian is terrible. Translated from the Hungarian by John Batki, Batki. Now this one has a little more of a convoluted story, so I'm going to read it. So, Spadework for a Palace bears the subtitle, Entering the Madness of Others, and offers an epigraph, Reality is no obstacle indeed. This high-octane obsessive rant vaults over all obstacles, fueled by the ideas fixed of a gray little librarian with fallen arches whose name, Mr. Herman Melville, is merely one of the coincidences bringing him and his lodestar Herman Melville. I too reside on East 26th Street. I too have worked for a while at a customs office, which itself is just one aspect of his also being constantly conscious of his connectedness to Lubious Woods, to the rock that is Manhattan, to the drunkard Lowry, and his lunar caustic to Baroque. And with this conscientious of connection, he is not only gaining true knowledge of Melville, but also tracing the paths to a serene paradise of knowledge. That sounds crazy and also fantastic. So, this is Spadework for a Palace by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, and I'm sorry, my Hungarian again is terrible. Translated by from the Hungarian by John Batki. And yeah, this is the longest at like 90 pages. The next book is, this author is one of those authors that's sort of a pinnacle in literary history, and all of the stories in this one sound so amazing. And that's The Woman Who Killed the Fish by Clarice Lispector. This is translated from the Portuguese by Benjamin Moser. And I have not read Clarice Lispector. I have a couple of her books on my shelf, and I'll be honest with you, I start them and I'm a little bit intimidated. So I'm super excited to jump into these short stories to sort of maybe work myself up to feeling that I can tackle her major works. So the first story is called The Woman Who Killed the Fish. And the back says, "The woman who killed the fish, unfortunately, is me," begins the title story. "But if it were my fault, I'd own up to it, since I don't lie to boys and girls. I only lie sometimes to certain types of grown-ups, because there's no other way." Enumerating all the animals she loves, Clarice finally asks, "Do you forgive me?" There's a couple of fascinating they almost seem like parables, or maybe, yeah, that's the right word, I think, parables. One is a detective story to determine whether or not bunnies actually think with their noses. There's a story about a shaggy dog that is obsessed with a wicked witch. I think it's going to be really interesting and fun and bring everything that is Lispector to the table in just a short little, so it's like a good place to be introduced to her, don't you think? So this is The Woman Who Killed the Fish by Clarice Lispector, translated from the Portuguese by Benjamin Moser. Okay, last but not least, we're going back to literature translated from Japanese by a winner of the National Book Award here in the US for translated fiction. And that is Three Streets by Yoko Tawada. This is translated from the Japanese by Margaret Mitsutani. And but I happen to know, I believe that Yoko Tawada also writes in German. So she is translated from 2 different languages. She's amazing, don't you? This is a collection of short stories, all ghost stories, supernatural stories. And each of the stories is named after a different street in Berlin. And I'm not going to tell you about them because I think that these are ones that I just feel like you're going to want to go in and just open them and start reading. But they all sound super fantastic. So this is Three Streets by Yoko Tawada, translated from the Japanese by Margaret Mitsutani. And this is the final book in this series. Did I not tell you how and just look at how cute they are. They're so cute. And there's this little stack right here. So there are 6 of them. I knew there were 6 of them. One of them had got left on the bottom there. I hope that you order them all. They are such a cute collection. I want to put them on my shelf. And they all sound so very, very much amazing. So first off, I want to thank you. If you're a return subscriber, I could not do this without you. And if you're the return subscriber that helped me with my mistake, I appreciate you very, very much. If you are new to my channel, I really, really hope that you subscribe, click the bell, do all those bells and whistles, and come back to hear me talk about more books in the future. As always, I encourage you to read globally, shop locally, and until next time, I wish you happy reading. Bye, everyone. Oh, bye, everyone. I'll talk to you later.